Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. It is February the 4th, 2026. Got a lot to talk about this evening, as you saw on the slide. California, the UK, Iran, hitting them all. Some election updates or midterm stories, I guess is the best way to put it. But first, and I wasn't even going to talk about Minnesota tonight. I was actually trying to get a Minnesota free show. I know last show I didn't really talk about Minneapolis or Minnesota or anything like that, but, I had a guest. But I was really just hoping for my own sanity, I guess, at this point. But this is a good one. So I'm really not going to complain too loudly. Tom Homan spoke today, the border czar, and he explained what's going. Oh, I'm being told I'm low. Let me fix that. Sorry about that, folks. Thank you, Phantom. No, my sound was low. I figured out how to do the not ducking, the not auto ducking that it does. So that should be fine. I was messing with my levels earlier and I was just low. So I apologize. So Tom Homan is up there in Minneapolis, and he somehow was able to get a deal that should make things a lot easier for everybody in Minneapolis.
And law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear. We all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm.
We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks.
It's kind of funny after Homan goes up there, J.D. Vance goes up there, and now all of a sudden the government up there wants to play ball. It's kind of just, ironical, as my friend would say.
We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets.
Wait a second.
Unprecedented cooperation.
It's amazing how that might work. You see, once you actually send adults up there to deal with these petulant juvenile leaders in this state, then all of a sudden, after they're told, you don't have a leg to stand on here, and some of you might still be in trouble legally for what you've encouraged, all of a sudden, they're starting to communicate about releasing detainee or arrestees who have detainers put on them for deportation. It's almost like the system would work if people would get the fuck out of the way. And this absolutely has already been said. They're going to lower the amount of ICE agents because they don't need to be going out and looking for as many. So you're going to have less ICE patrolling around the streets looking for these people. You're going to have the cities and counties and state prisons, county jails doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is honoring the detainer and notifying ICE when they have somebody in custody that has a detainer. And the process will go smoothly yet again. So that's good. But I want to get back to California. That's where I really wanted to start tonight, was California, because Gavin Newsom, who is just, have you ever had that friend who, like maybe a coworker? I don't think friend's the word I want to use here, but have you ever had that coworker who's like so friggin' confident in themselves that they're good at everything, but yet everything they touch turns to shit? That's Gavin Newsom. I'm going to go through the list of things that Gavin has done wrong. But before we do that, let's talk about the high-speed rail. Now, many of you may or may not know. The high-speed rail to nowhere, it goes from Merced to Bakersfield. If you're not familiar with California, there's no reason to go from Merced to Bakersfield unless you are passing through to the other side. You may stop in Merced, you may stop in Bakersfield, but very few people have the need to go on that route specifically. There's nothing wrong with either city. It's not like going LA to San Francisco to Sacramento to LA, maybe, which all of those things you can do in regular rail. But back, what was it? 2015, they said, hey, we're going to dump all of this friggin' money. At that time, it was estimated to be $35 billion into this train to nowhere, which is what everybody was calling it in California at the time. They put it on the ballot. People said, oh, free. I like trains, train rides. Yeah, everybody loves a train. Nobody really paid attention. So the project starts. It's supposed to be done in 2020. Here it is, 2026. And we found out today that they're getting ready to lay the track soon. It's coming. It's starting soon. They're just edging California at this point. Yes, I said that. It's the biggest tease. And this is what, and I've said this before, this is what liberal politicians absolutely do on a regular basis. They are the stripper on the pole. The people that believe them, follow them, and love them are the ugly guy in the audience who keeps giving them money. And that stripper will pay attention to you as long as you keep giving them money. But at the end of the day, that stripper gets off stage, and no matter how many lap dances and no matter how many times she tells you she thinks you're so handsome, smart, and funny, they're going to go get in the car with the bouncer and drive home with all your money. And that's exactly what this project is turning out to be, because as of right now, the estimated cost went from $33 billion to $128 billion. This guy wants to be president, by the way. And this is just one project. I'm going to get into all the other shit that Gavin Newsom's done horribly. That's $95 billion over budget. That's like saying you're going to rebuild the deck for your back deck for $3,000. It ends up costing you, I don't know, $35,000, right? It's just unreasonable. It's unrealistic. It's almost what, 4 times what they said it was going to be? So my deck analogy math was a little wrong. I apologize. And like I said, it's already 6 years past the fucking due date. They're just talking about laying track. And here's Gavin, who for some reason has decided it's best to put his face next to this project as much as possible.
When I took over and got that baton passed to me by the previous administration, my first visits, the first day I was in office was in the Central Valley. I said, I'll keep coming back over and over. You don't have to vote for me. You don't have to, care about me. I'm just going to prove you wrong that I don't care. I do care. And I have your back, and I want to keep coming back. So I acknowledge that. And this was a cornerstone of that commitment. And that's why I'm grateful as well to the legislature broadly.
I hope they wiped off the podium when he was done. Yeah, he's going to keep coming back when he has anything to make him look good. Now they opened up what's it called? The trailhead or the trackhead. I'm sorry. It's a facility. And look, I'm not talking about the people that actually do the work. By the way, look for the guys that have the dirty hard hats and the dirty reflective vests. They're the ones that do the work. And then on top of this, they're now talking about starting a train that's going from San Francisco over to Merced. And they can't even do the 171 miles. 6 years past when it was supposed to be done. $95 billion over budget. Billion with the B. By the way, just in case you're not 100% sure, the state of California, the fourth largest economy in the world, as the greaseball likes to tell you. Fourth largest economy in the world is about $18 billion in the hole for this coming year. And potentially by 2028, $38 billion in the hole. This is Gavin Newsom, ladies and gentlemen. This is not at all a hiccup in Gavin's career. No. This is who Gavin Newsom is. And I'm going to talk to you about some other... I tell my friends all the time in California, look, you have to understand. People outside of California do not see Gavin Newsom like people. Even liberals and Democrats outside of California do not like Gavin Newsom. And there was a poll that just came out that shows just that. It's by Rasmussen. He's trailing Kamala Harris, who has not declared for 2028, but everyone kind of thinks that, everyone knows what they know. As a matter of fact, we had some sort of confirmation today. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this. Get Gavin off the screen. Nobody wants to hear or see from you, Gavin. Where is it? I thought I saved it. Maybe I didn't. Because this... Yes, here it is. Kamala HQ on X. Everyone knows who that is. That's her essentially social media arm. Put this up a few hours ago. It says login, and then there's a couple of passwords wrong. But this one was, the babysitter is weird. Now, whoever's running Kamala HQ must have forgot that Doug hooked up with the babysitter before. And this seems like a really weird thing to put. But I digress. Back to Newsom, because this is his segment to be shit on. He's trailing Kamala by 14. And again, I understand totally how far away 2028 is. I know a month in politics is the equivalent of 5 years, or as quickly as tomorrow, depending on who says what, how, and why. That is where we are in politics today. But keep in mind, Gavin trailing, in general, 14 points to Kamala, after he has done nothing but campaign for the last year. He hasn't officially declared, but this is why if you go to Gavin Newsom's press office and all this stuff, it's just constantly the Trump attacks, and he's trying to be Trump without being Trump to show the ridiculousness of Trump, but he makes himself look like an asshole. Again, a skit that they're going to slowly walk away from, but will make very obvious what a losing idea that was. And they can't just abandon it, because then everybody's going to say, oh, yeah, that was a tremendous failure. So they'll walk back the whole press office being snarky all the time and trying to be Trump and the crown on Newsom's head, blah, 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 blah. But this is where it gets interesting. Because among African Americans, Gavin trails by 43% among polled Democrats in this Rasmussen report. And again, I know I shit on polls. I know it's super early. But Gavin has been the face of the Democratic Party for the last year. And this was polled specifically for Dems. This wasn't a general. This was a Democrat-based polling by Rasmussen. And there's a whole bunch of other minor, smaller metrics, if you will, with different other races and a couple other things. The biggest gap he had, Newsom is a great governor. Steve Trulio says in chat, I love it when the stand-up comedians show up. The biggest gap he had in anything was 3% in this poll. So despite the last year plus of Gavin Newsom running for president, running against Trump for some reason, even though Trump's not going to be in office, being dumb enough to fall into Trump's traps for things like DJT 2028 and all that other stuff, where he sent me all these hats, which was one of the funniest fucking things Whoever said, you know what, send Newsom the hat. See, they deserved a cocktail for doing that. But yeah, this does not bode well for Gavin. And I've said on this show, told all my friends in California, people outside of California sees what a shit show California is, and they don't want any part of it whatsoever. They don't want Gavin. They like Gavin for fighting against Trump, the Democrats do, because it's just anybody against Trump, orange man bad. We're all for it. We don't care what, like I said, there are people that celebrated the man got shot, so they don't care. As long as it's orange man bad, then you're on our team. But as we start to get closer to elections, and midterms will suss some out too, you're going to see that's when people start to take things more seriously, where the bravado online and the bullshit comes to an end and people start getting quieter about who they are and aren't voting for. Now, Gavin's probably big mad right now that Kamala put that out, because you got to remember that's going to be a primary slobber knocker, and it will be. And that's just between those two. That's not including Pete and some others who might mix into it. Booker's there, AOC's there. Both Booker and AOC were in the basement. I think Pete was third in most polling behind Gavin. But what are they going to hit Gavin with? Look, Kamala is going to be in the primary, just the primary, not the general. Kamala is going to be everything that she did during the last election to lose. That's going to be easy. But Newsom's going to be easy too for going after him. You have the COVID hypocrisy, French laundry and NFL suites and maskless parties while everybody else couldn't go to the beach and people were getting arrested for windsurfing by themselves, right? The EDD fraud, $20 to $30 billion in improper payments while he was governor to residents while residents were struggling. Wildfire lies, claiming 90,000 acres were treated when it was really 11,000 acres, exaggerating by 690%. Cost of living, California has the highest gas prices and and taxes in the nation, both prices and taxes. It's why a large chunk of the middle class has fled California. It's why they're at a net zero right now as far as people moving to or from California. That's never happened before. It's almost even. It's why so many rich people are leaving, because Gavin pushed the floating of the billionaire tax for his own purpose. Remember, everything Newsom did is for Newsom for the last 2 years since he decided he was running. And then last time Kamala got the nod and he stepped aside a little bit. He didn't exactly give her a huge endorsement. Remember, he didn't even take Kamala's call. I think BZ made the joke in the chat room about to go, I'll call you back. Is that what he said? About to go on a hike. I'll call you back. He never called the vice president of the United States back who was running, because he was trying to distance himself from her as much as possible. Let's see. Oh, Prop 47, the shoplifting wave that hit California. It's still happening. And then the homelessness increased by 6% in 2024 after spending $24 billion? $24 billion to fight homelessness. That also, and it's not on the list, but Prop 47, which was passed the last election, overwhelmingly almost 80%. You remember Gavin came out and tried to pass a half-assed law 2 months before to try to save it from passing. Or Prop 37. Whichever one was the last one. There's so many propositions in California. Whichever one was in the last one. It passed by 80% to try to curb crime, and Newsom won't fund it, and the legislature won't fund it. And it shows that he is not a leader amongst the legislature. If he wanted to fund it, it would be funded. That's how California is. It's a super majority in California. He will get his way most of the time. He won't fund it. Why? Because Gavin Newsom today has once again, and I've written about Gavin Newsom numerous times, about how he tries to become what he thinks people want him to be in order to get ahead. This is the man that made taxpayers in San Francisco put a bust of himself in the San Francisco City Hall. Normally you add busts after people die or retire, and it's the consensus of the body, like the city council had said, oh, we should commemorate that person. No. Newsom put a bust of himself in San Francisco City Hall. Newsom morphs into whatever he fucking thinks people want him to be in order to get elected. Say what you want about the guy who's in the White House right now. At least it's him. You may not like what he says. You may not like this. You may not like that. But at least you know that's his personality. Gavin is the greasiest of politicians. And he's also the one who had the balls, what was it, last month to say, I don't like it when politicians lie to people or when you can tell a politician is lying. It is insane. And I got to take a break. Wow, that flew by fast. Come back. I want to touch a little bit on California. Then I want to go international. We talk about UK, Trump's call with China, and a couple other things right here on the SHR Media Network simulcast with our friends over at KLRN. Please do me a favor right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Thank you so much for sticking around. We appreciate it. A few more little touch-ups on California before we move on to the UK. There was a debate earlier this week on Fox 11 down in LA. Amazingly, Eric Swalwell and Katie Porter, the two leading Democrats, were not there. You had Matt Mahan, Antonio Villargiosa. I hope I didn't hack that. I'm always really, really bad with names that have a ton of vowels in it because my brain does not process it right for some reason. Betty Yee, Steve Hilton. But Eric Swalwell and Katie Porter, mashed potatoes and crybaby himself, were not present, which you would think that, you know, seeing how Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are the two leaders right now, that he would want to make an appearance. And it may have something to do with the fact that there's now allegations behind all of his cringe videos that he spent $200,000 in campaign cash on personal child care, which I'm no lawyer, but that's usually a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. This comes out with just so many other things of Swalwell making promises that legally he can't keep about, not giving ICE driver's license if you worked for ICE, unmasking them, which the supremacy clause, all of these things that keep Eric Swalwell being Eric Swalwell. And Eric Swalwell is trying to do his best Gavin Newsom impression by just becoming the politician that he thinks people want. And this is how far behind the eight ball they are on things. I know somebody who early on in his political career, when he was running for Congress, actually worked for his campaign. Did I have him on this show, or was I a guest on another show? It doesn't matter. But she said when he first started out, he was maybe slightly left of center. Maybe. He had a lot of so-called conservative views because the area that he was running in, believe it or not, had some large conservative pockets. It's one of the rare ones in the Bay Area. So that's what he ran on. And then as soon as he got in, he sprinted hard to the left. Now, when Daniel Mercury was on a couple weeks ago, who's also running for governor in California, Daniel Mercury explained how a lot of these candidates get sent contracts from all these big donors that they have to sign or personally be responsible. And it makes you wonder, and you're essentially selling your soul for the seat. That's how it works. So Swalwell is now running for governor. And all he's doing is rubber stamp everything that's being said by the left on social media to try to get elected. And you're going to end up in this state where I live, unfortunately, if you go with him, another Gavin Newsom or mashed potatoes, Katie Porter. Either way, neither one of them are positive for the state of California. Moving on to the second segment. So the UK got interesting. There's a reports out right now that Keir Starmer may be stepping down in the next couple days. Now, if you haven't followed UK politics at all, why would you? We have enough of our own politics going on in this country. I get it. Starmer has not been doing well lately. His support has been already in the dumpster. And now there's a scandal, and it's all about a man by the name of Lord, it's some weird British thing, Peter Mandelson, who is the U.S. ambassador from the UK, who was appointed by Keir Starmer. Starmer admitted today during PMQs that he knew Mandelson was involved deeply with Jeffrey Epstein. And now there's revolt in the party. Now, it's alleged that if he does step down, Deputy PM David Lammy is expected to take the reins as the interim prime minister. Labor is already catering to the polls, some as low as 15 to 20%. They're in the basement. While Nigel Farage's Reform UK party is surging right now. It could be the final nail in Labour for the UK. And you might say, Sean, why do you care? Well, I don't necessarily care per se. But the Labour Party is what led the UK into the situation that it's in today. The mass migration, the massive inflation, all the issues with the migrants at home, the covering up for the grooming scandals, all that stuff Labor has caused, and that has had national effects, international effects. Starmer has been a absolute weak, feckless individual, and now it looks like he's probably on his way out. Sticking internationally, but tying it back to America, President Trump today had a phone call with President Xi of China. Trump described the call as very good. This came just after Xi got off the phone with one Vladimir Putin, one of the biggest shitbags on the planet. And he is. But he unfortunately is the leader of a large nation. They talked everything from lowering more tariffs, because the tariffs, much like so many others, and Scott Bessent today said in Congress, I have that video to play if we have time later, the tariffs are actually working and China's coming to the table. Do we trust China? No, not as far as you can fucking throw them. Remember, Xi's a communist. He's going to do whatever's best for China. Xi was also just talking. Look, for the country that opens a coal plant a day and has the worst record on the planet for environmental shit, things that we don't even know about if you talk to people who lived in China that didn't make it out of certain regions because the government came in and shut it down so quick. Last week, Xi was talking about how we need to save the environment and all this other stuff. Xi is starting to pretend to get along because he is in trouble. Now, we had on Leah the other night, who worked for the NSA, CIA for 20 years. She's an analyst. And she said, China, their economy's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Listening post, the lashes better happen for being late. How dare you be, 30? I'm 30 minutes into my show and you're late? You have a lot of nerve. And their military is a quasi paper tiger. They're still a threat. They're still something you have to be concerned about. But they're not the beast that everyone makes them out to be. So many military experts have said that. They put forth a good show, but as we saw with some of their aircraft equipment in Venezuela, or radar, I should say, it's not necessarily the snuff that it should be. And of course, they're threatening to Taiwan. And as we spoke the other night, Iran ties in directly to China and Taiwan because China gets 20% of its oil from Iran, which is why I put the poll up at the beginning of the show. So they discussed including soybean imports, selling to China from America, getting some money back then. And Xi apparently told Putin that any season is springtime and Russia-China's relations, but clearly he's also playing ball with Trump. So on his call with Putin, he said springtime, it's always springtime, essentially, with Russia-China relations. And then when he got on with Trump, he started to talk about, we'll buy more stuff from you. We'll lower some tariffs. We'll be good boys. And we don't really want to mess with you, which means that, the finger on the pulse, or the finger on the boot, on the throat, if you will, with China has actually been working. So now I mentioned Iran, and there was a video, and I'm going to play it. I always go back and forth. Look, I say a lot of things. I'm loud. I know that. I say a lot of things that probably upset some people. It's too damn bad. I know that. But I try not to show too much graphic stuff because I just don't need to shock and awe you every single time. But this one, when I find it, showed me just how bad it is getting in Iran. Now, the protests in Iran have been going on now since the 28th of December. Iran has apparently been slaughtering tons of people who are protesting, yet the people aren't going away like Iran had hoped. There are reports now that the Ayatollahs living in a bunker. Lee and I talked about what it could look like after the fact. But essentially, the bombing is inevitable. There was supposed to be peace talks or some sort of nuclear talks between the Trump administration and Iran for Friday. The Trump administration canceled that because apparently Iran was just not being at all reasonable. Shocking, right? Fucking Iran's not being reasonable. They throw gay people off roof. How can you say that? No, they do. They slaughter their own people who disagree, and not like an incident went sideways slaughter. No, mass slaughterings. Thousands upon thousands of people have died since the middle of January, maybe even earlier to today. So I'm going to show you this video. Viewer discretion entirely what was I saying? Advised is the word I was looking for. I apologize. Here's the video. That is an Iranian IRGC, police, law enforcement, whatever they call themselves over there, vehicle. So when I see liberals out there talking about how Iran isn't that bad, how do you explain that away? And this isn't, like I said before, this isn't actively like the protesters were like causing this. No, they were just protesting in the streets. They want to change. The government is listening. Why do they want to change? Because they have no water. They have no food. Their currency is so far into the toilet that you'd wear a glove up to your elbow to get it out. They're suffering. They don't want it. And look, there are reports now that even though Iran itself is an Islamic nation, that a majority of the people there don't necessarily agree with that. And they don't want that anymore. And they're sick and tired of being murdered by their own government in mass for little things like being gay, for a woman not wearing her hijab, for disagreeing with the Ayatollahs. All of that gets you killed in Iran. And now there are reports. I mean, look, we have a battle plan. We already know what we're going to do with Iran. We knew probably 2 months ago. Maybe even, no, we probably knew after the last time we bombed them, if we had to go back, what we're going to do next. Let's give our military the credit it deserves. We've had a plan. Trump's giving them an out. Hey, make a change. Go elsewhere. Leave. Let cooler heads prevail. Let a new leader come in. Hold an election. Ayatollah step down. All these things I'm sure are being discussed. Iran's not having it. As I talked about before, what is Iran? Iran's the biggest supporter of terror in the world. They also, because of the dirty oil that they sell, filthy dirty oil, to Russia, North Korea, China, Turkey, and India. That's how they make their money to fund this terror. They have, you saw Hamas, you saw Hezbollah, you see what's going on in Yemen. Most people look up what's going on in Yemen. And on one side, you have the Iranians, and on the other side, you have the Saudis, and they're all in a proxy war. And then there's a third side with the UAE in another proxy war. But that started primarily from the Iranians funding the terrorists in that state to undo the Yemeni government. The Ayatollah, the Iranian leadership are absolute monster shitbags. There's no wiggle room in that comment. There's no like, well, let's think about all the good things that they've done. Let's think about all the people they haven't killed yet. And like I said, much like Venezuela, and Leah said the other night, Iran is also a tactical position for us because you're taking oil away from China, who is our enemy, our biggest adversary. Despite the great phone call, Trump going to visit, all that, they're still our enemy. I mean, shit. They just found, what, millions of dollars from the Chinese government, went to the guy who owns the house in Nevada and in Reedley, California. He owned that property too, where they're opening up the biolabs. We've talked about on this show and others how many times China has had people next to high-ranking officials in our government, spies. I mentioned Swalwell earlier. You can't get any closer than that, intimately. China's buying up land around all of our military bases. The secret police stations, that was a thing. The 911, the data bank with all the cell cards that was designed to crash the 911 system in New York. They believe that was China. The list goes on and on. The Chinese government, and I'm not talking about the people again, the Chinese government is as filthy as the Iranian government. They're just smart about how they do it. They murder their own people all the time. Look at COVID. They were welding them into fucking buildings. Look up the Chinese Uyghurs, what they're doing to them. So when we attack, and I think we're going to be attacked, I think it's, what's today, Wednesday? By Friday or Saturday is my guess. They're going to be putting warheads on foreheads in Iran. Lee and I were talking that, best case scenario, we drop a bunch of munitions because we have capabilities that Israel doesn't. And Israel and others in the region go in and stabilize it. They'll probably bring the Shah's kid back in, the crown prince, and hopefully be an interim government till they can have elections. And if a best case scenario with Iran, everything gets better and they're back to being a semi-productive country in the next 20 years or so, legitimately. But you have to start somewhere. And like I said, we have the Abraham Lincoln in there. We have so much. We just had, I apologize, I forgot to mention that too. Just had the drone shot down by an F-35C that was on patrol. It was doing the combat air patrol around the carrier. And Iran flew drones too close. And they blew the shit out of it, which they should have done to the Chinese balloon under Biden, but that's neither here nor there. Getting off track, Sean. I know. The drones are one of the best things that Iran has in their drone force, air force, whatever you want to call it. So much so that they built an aircraft carrier out of an old oil tanker for just drones. This will also stop the war in Russia or set it back quite a bit, because now you have China low on oil. Russia will be lower on oil, and they get a ton of munitions and drones from Iran. Sean off track. No, it happens all the time. Story of my life, brother. Story of my life. So it's coming. It's just a matter of when and what it looks like afterwards. I got to take a break. Last one of the night. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to KLRN for the simulcast. Please, thank you, moderators. Please respect the moderators. Please respect the friends in chat. Even if you don't like what I'm saying, just be respectful about it. Not even for my sake. I could care less if you're mean to me, but the other people in chat who are here to actually try to have a normal conversation. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp edge. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality. We fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch the Reaver in action. He is here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing is for sure, he always tells it like it is. The Reaver of Common Sense.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Greg Griffin over on YouTube put out a great comment. And says, who profits the most from land purchase in the U.S. by the Chinese, U.S. politicians? What won't the U.S. politicians sell for? Well, look, bud, I don't disagree with you that there are some politicians who absolutely would sell their grandma to make a buck. On both sides of the aisle. I'm not saying it's one or the other. They're absolutely on both sides of the aisle. I will agree with you there. Speaking of grandma, shout out to Grandma Ever, who's watching on YouTube. I appreciate you, and all the other people in chat. Thank you so much. Steve Trulio's over in chat talking. Thank you, Steve. Dennis Nielsen. I mentioned Greg earlier. Jack Boozer, Milepost, Beezy's in chat. Listening posts in chat. Reaver's over there in chat. Diane's in chat. The chat's just doing great tonight. Mission Ready Men's in chat. The Phantom's in chat. The moderators. Let's see. A couple other people who may have been in chat that I can't scroll all the way back. Let's start off a couple things. Remember we were told this wasn't happening, and then people got kicked off of social media for saying it was. And then we all said, hey, this is probably not a good idea to do when you're mutilating children before they're fully developed and can make their decisions on their own. And the parents that were doing this were a problem and all that. And everyone said, oh, you're a monster. You're a monster for not letting a 12-year-old lop off their penis. You're a monster for not letting a 14-year-old lop off her breasts and then take cuts out of her arm to make a fake penis. How dare you? They deserve to be heard. Yada, yada, yada. This is even doctors agree that this is an okay thing to do. And then today, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons recommended against gender transition surgeries for youths, becoming the first major medical association in the U.S. to narrow its guidance on pediatric gender care. Glad somebody finally said it. Look, I know they're not the only ones who've said it. I know a couple other smaller groups have, and everyone called them lunatics and attacked them for it. But it raises the question of where do they see this is going? And I think it was on BZ's show last night. He mentioned a couple other cases. And now you're looking at some people who are potentially suing doctors now that they're adults. And doctors now that they're adults and potentially their parents. And that is a huge, huge issue. And look, you've seen so many. I told you about the gal that was on social media who was so put her whole story of detransitioning and transitioning and how it jacked her bodies up in ways that nobody told her about. And she said, even if they had, I was 16, I probably wouldn't have understood how it ruined her career. She was going to college for theater. She can't sing. She can't talk over a certain level because her vocal cords are swollen as a side effect of the medications. And the female body is not meant to take the swollen vocal cords. We're built differently. So it's good to see that finally getting spoken about. Jasmine Crockett, who you haven't heard a lot about lately. That's on purpose, because she's really not doing much of anything other than
think that there were a lot
Senate and not doing a very good job at it. But she was on I think this is what's her name over at the 5, Jennifer Tarloff or Jessica Tarloff. I don't really watch Fox. And she's on her podcast that's not on Fox, and she said this about the PPP loans.
I think that there were a lot of things that, because we were in a unique set of circumstances, that they handled in ways that you wouldn't normally handle them. We know that there was an insane amount of fraud as it relates to PPP loans, that kind of stuff. We know that as it relates to people that were seeking refuge in our country, as it relates to the pandemic.
There was massive fraud with the PPP loan. We know that, she says, and then says it's relation to people who are refugees in our country during COVID. She just admitted to everything that we've been saying about the fraud with the legals. Everything. She just admitted it. And it wasn't a moment of honesty. It wasn't her trying to right the ship. It was accidental honesty. She just admitted, and that's going to get played 1 billion times. 1 billion times. And then we have the photo ID argument in this country. Now, I'm going to play this. This is CNN, mind you. This is the liberal mind hive capital of America. And they're actually admitting this about voter ID.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
I love how he had to throw in the little Nicki Minaj deal. Like, this is her champion. She agrees with it, but it's not like she's the champion of voter ID. We've been screaming about it for years. For years. But let's break that down. We were told it's immoral because minorities can't get IDs, but you have 76% of Black voters who want it, 82% of Latino voters, 71% of Democrat voters, 95% of Republican voters. This is the most agreed upon topic or bill that we've probably had in years. Not little ones, not, let's pass a little law to get this city its bridge back. Yes, we all agree with that needs to happen. No. Voter ID, we were told, was controversial for decades. How dare you when we brought it up? How dare you? And always saying, look, it's not that hard to get an ID, and we have other options than just the DMV. We can work on things. We'll meet you in the middle. I personally have no issue paying for people to get their IDs if we passed voter ID. I would, yeah, okay. Because that's how much it matters to people in this country and how important it is. You go read the founders. You go to shrmedia.com. Look at the Federalist Papers. You can see how important and how crucial a secure vote was to them. And it still is today. And look, if there is no fraud going on, and this was never an issue, if nobody was stealing other people's ID and then showing up and mailing in ballots and all this other stuff, or, Swalwell wants voting by phone, because how could that possibly go wrong? But if all that wasn't happening, then you gain nothing. But if it was happening, then you gain the sanctity of votes back for people and people who shouldn't be voting. I think part of the SAVE Act should be that every single state before an election cycle has to purge their ballots and make sure and verify. It just has to happen. You can't have, what was it, California? It was 60,000 dead people that were still on the polls or something like that. I could be off a little bit here and there, but it still should never happen. And I'll tell you right now, Tim Burchett has been one of my favorite people in Congress lately. He's called out both sides. He's trying to spearhead that nobody in Congress should be able to do stock trades while they're in Congress. He's trying to absolutely end that in a bipartisan way. He co-founded that bill, or co-sponsored that bill with with Jayapal. I think that he is absolutely one of the best people in Congress today. Could change, but right now. But he went on CNN again. CNN had him because this is no longer a controversial issue and this should just be passed already, but to make his case.
And I know what he's saying. He wants to put good barriers in. An attorney told me one time, good fences make good neighbors. And I think we need some good fences in our election laws in this country.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with securing our elections. This should not be controversial. The only reason it's controversial is because liberals want it to be controversial, because there's a good chance that they want some extra people voting. It's the same reason why they're fighting against deportations for redistricting. And then when there's a tragedy, they fundraise on it. Other quick story. What do I got? 7 minutes left. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about this, but from the LA Times, the mayor of LA, Karen Bass. You remember Karen Bass. She was the one who was gone when the fire started. She's the former representative. She spent a lot of time in Cuba as a kiddo. apparently told the interim fire chief Villanueva that the report could expose the city to legal liability, so to make a change in it, she wanted the key findings about the LAFD's actions removed or softened before the report was put to public. We talk about politicians, especially in California, trying to rewrite your reality. Here's another one for such a controversial thing. And right, it shouldn't be controversial. LA fucked up. The fire department fucked up. The mayor fucked up. The city fucked up. And they were trying to hide it. Absolutely just insane. And that doesn't even include, I'm going to go back to California for just a second. There's a state auditor found a single commercial building in Van Nuys in California registered for 112 different hospice agencies. 112. Which is just insane to me, in one center. And apparently, enrolling seniors who are terminal into Medicare by the thousands illegally, LA County alone has nearly 2,000 providers, and which is more than 36 states combined. Attorney General Rob Bonta finally called it an epidemic this week. So now it's okay. Now we're going to deal with the fraud, and we can talk about it, mainstream media and others, not necessarily us here, because Rob Bonta said, oh, yeah, this is a problem. They're bilking millions of dollars from Medicaid and other places through these phony hospice agencies. And it's once again put that little check mark on Gavin Newsom, because that happened under his watch as well. Let's see a couple other stories before we go to end. Hey, remember when everybody freaked out during the election because negative things were said about Haiti? And we're talking about deportations. The liberals want to remind you that you can't send anybody back to Haiti because it's a death sentence.
Sending these people back to Haiti is basically a death sentence. And that's why we were asking the administration to open up their hearts and to extend this TPS.
So now it's a death sentence. And Haiti hasn't suddenly turned. Haiti's been Haiti for a long time now. Yes, they're in the middle of a not civil war where there's like a president, but he's not really doing anything. And then there are terrorists running through the streets. But now, all of a sudden, sending people to Haiti is a death sentence because Haiti's such a bad and horrible place. And that just sums up how quickly the leftist liberals will change sides as quickly as possible in order to prove or try to prove their point and weigh on people's emotions, because as I said, that's where they get you. They remove the logic and they just charge people up emotionally. Speaking of charged up emotionally,
to investors raising concerns about the impact of tariffs, writing that, quote, tariffs are inflationary. Did you say that at that time? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a New York Times article that, agrees that
New York Times.
Then last summer, when you testified before a Senate committee, you said, and I quote, there is no...
Before this happens, just pay attention to this dude in the front of the camera right here. Look at the smirk on his face. Look at right at the bottom, right near the time bar. Just watch the smirk on his face because he knows what's about to happen.
Before a Senate committee, you said, and I quote, there is no inflation. Tariffs are not being passed on to consumers. You were quite definitive and even claimed that critics had, quote, tariff derangement syndrome. Well, those comments are at odds with the statement you made to investors that tariffs are inflationary.
I don't mind her reading his direct quotes, and I don't mind her reading bullet points, but isn't Maxine Waters just reading a teleprompter right now?
Again, I want to be clear, so just let me ask you, are tariffs inflationary, yes or no?
According to the San Francisco Federal Reserve, with 150 years of data,
yes or no?
Tariffs do not cause inflation. San Francisco Federal Reserve.
Well, last November, as the Trump administration finally began to realize that affordability issues in America are not a hoax, you told Fox News that the government was going to reduce tariffs on goods like coffee and bananas, and that doing so would, quote, bring the prices down very quickly. Mr. Secretary, why was that announcement even necessary? If tariffs aren't inflationary, and as you and the president like to say, or paid for by the foreign country, a tariff on coffee or bananas shouldn't.
I let that play on because, and I know I'm going to get out the door here in just a minute. I let that play on because when we talk about term limits, which I'm a fan of, this is exactly why. She's just falling apart there. She's not even, like I said, I understand talking points. I understand direct quotes. I understand like having your timeline and all that other stuff. She's just reading a damn teleprompter, and she's not even the one who wrote it. And then she freaked out because Bissett pushed back a little bit, and she did the absolute favorite thing that I love when Democrats do. They ask you a question, you start to give an answer, they don't like the answer, and they scream, "Reclaiming my time." And now you get to reclaim your time because it's the end of the show here on SHR Media on the Edge of Liberty. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to the chatters. Most importantly, thank you to the moderators for being there tonight. I really appreciate you as well. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We would greatly appreciate it. We're pushing 1,000. I don't know where we're at now. We're at 950 when we started the show. Like to cross that 1,000 mark. Check out shrmedia.com. You can get the 250 reasons to read source documents t-shirt there, as well as your favorite shows on SHR Media. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you Monday. Pardon me. But check out some other great shows we have on SHR Media every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have the Reaver of Common Sense with my bud Jersey Joe. Tuesday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have the bulbous one, BZ, with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on SHR Media, Tuesday, Thursday morning. Mission Ready Men, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. And then when he gets around to it, The Lost Wanderer shows up on our YouTubes on Sundays, usually around 5 o'clock every couple of weeks to tell you just awesome stuff. And that's a totally different show, not at all political, but a lot of fun. So check it out. You can follow me on X, the number 2 Against Tyranny. I will see you Monday at 8 p.m. Have a great night. Thank you.